And we're back. So it's part two to the John Alite show. Don't forget effing pizza, Landis Avenue in Vineland. Check out the pizza, check out the sauce. It's to die for. It's to kill for. Great atmosphere, great guys that run it. And today we're going to go back and I want to talk to Amanda, Kim, and Dan about their personal history and exactly where they came from and what happened, what led them to addiction. And I'll start off first with Amanda. How are you? So let's go back and I'll introduce Amanda, Kim, and Dan, and you can tell your personal story of what happened so people can relate to part one and understand where you came from and your struggles and tribulations.
Guys, I'm Amanda and I'm Albanian. And I'm also a former addict. Growing up in an Albanian household, which was very, strict. And my parents, are immigrants. They came here from Albania about 30 years ago. And then I was born the year that they came here. So, they're very old school. They didn't know much about, how people operated in America. And, when I went to high school and everybody was going out with their friends and, having, their experimental stages in life, I was kind of locked in the house. Um, and, if I was, wanting to hang out with a guy or something like that, like that wasn't even a thing. You were called a bad girl if you did things like that. And, you know, when I first found substances, I really thought that like, wow, like this is the thing that makes me feel okay inside. I could just sit home all day and I could be on pills and I'm fine. And then it progressed and got worse. And I didn't wake up one day and think that I was gonna be, a heroin addict, but that's what happens and that's what it led to. And it's hard for me to even talk about this on camera because it's very taboo. And it's a shame thing. Like I was ashamed for a very long time, but I also know now that if I don't tell my story, that there's other girls out there that probably are going through the same thing that have no one to talk to, or reach out to. So yeah, um, you know,
Do you remember when you first, did you enjoy the drug that you were using or did you
yeah.
use it just to kill the pain or was it both?
So at first, I did it because it felt good, and then somewhere along the lines, I don't know when it happened, but I was just using it because I was physically dependent and because it made the pain go away. Whatever I struck, because I also struggled with mental health when I was younger, but we didn't know it. Like we didn't believe in mental health, so I didn't know what I was going through. I just thought, I'm using this drug because it feels good. And then I had to go through a lot of therapy and treatment to understand that like I don't. It's the substance isn't the problem. I am.
Who was the one who first introduced you to drug? Do you remember? Was it a friend, a boyfriend? Was it?
Yeah, it was my neighbor. My neighbor, she was using pills at the time. Her mom, she was getting them from her mom, and you know, she actually, I did it because it was mostly peer pressure. Like I took it because I wanted to fit in. And then I also liked the way that it felt.
And when did you know that you needed help eventually? What made you go get help? After struggling for so long, what actually forced you mentally to say, "This is enough. I want to be me again"? What made you go back?
I think I knew better. Like I knew what I was doing was wrong. And like with my parents, they were very hard on me. Once they found out that I was using, I would go home and my mom my mom would be screaming and yelling and I just didn't want to. I knew that there was more to life than just using all day. And the second I used, the next day I sold all my jewelry. Like I dove into addiction like really quick.
But what made you when they were yelling at you and screaming? What made you go home and not just not come home? Like a lot of people do. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to deal with it. They want to just continue to get high. What made you still go home?
Well, there was something inside me that, like I knew there was more for me than just drug addiction. And I knew that if I could, like, I knew that this drug was getting in the way of me progressing in life, and all my friends were going to college, and I was still working in a pizzeria. And like I just wanted more, because when I was younger, like I always thought I was gonna be successful, and get married, have kids, and I knew if I was using, none of that was gonna happen. Like I just knew, like I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kim, how about yourself? How did that start? And
Um, so I actually, what's so funny is I was very close friends with Amanda when she was going through, both her and her friend that were both going through everything. And I had no idea, honestly. I've been around a lot of substances a lot of my life. I've met like so many different people. And even with my facial disorder, I was prescribed so many different painkillers over the years, and I never abused anything. I would leave the hospital after even upper and lower jaw surgery, and I didn't take the painkillers when I got home. Um, and so I later in life, I just my life is a culmination of a series of unfortunate events that turned into blessings. But like it has been like that from the minute I've been born. I feel like nothing was ever perfectly in my favor, but somehow the bad luck, the good luck is equally as good, but just the opposite direction. So, um, the I grew up kind of being bullied in school, but one thing that's funny is like confidence wasn't really a struggle for me at all. Like I really, even with the facial disorder, I knew that when I turned 18, everything was going to be fixed on my face that everybody was making fun of me for, and they were still going to be ugly. Like I remember I'd say that all the time and be like, you can't be ugly and mean. It's like the joke, but if they're mean, they're ugly already, and then if they're talking about my face, they're already ugly. So like that's always how I saw it. And so when I got older, I think my biggest issue was always I think I was naive in thinking that everyone has the same heart as me. Like, I would never go out of my way to cause suffering for another person ever. I'm even like very cautious to how I say things, what I align myself with, because I just would never want to put someone in a place where I'm their cause of suffering. So I think as I got older and I met specifically my one ex when I was 26 or 27, yeah, like probably 27. I remember when I met him, he was perfect for 3 months, like so amazing. But find out later, he was definitely like not the trendy word narcissist, like full on, like is an actual like demon. And like he just would mirror everything about me for about the first 3 months. So I'm thinking I met my soulmate. Meanwhile, he's just copying me. He's copying my energy. He's copying my mannerisms, my hobbies, my everything. So I'm like, oh my God, my perfect person. And then all of a sudden one day it flipped, and up until that point he was holding, I remember I thought it was weird, like red flags, but I would ignore them. He would hold a Xanax bottle around with him 24/7, and he'd repeat over and over, my parents are doctors, my parents are like, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess they wouldn't give their son, whatever. So later in life, or later into our relationship, we're about 3 months in. I said in the previous episode that he had gotten me pregnant, and it was planned by him. He said it right when he did it. That night, he said, "I wonder what our kids would look like," and then conveniently, I'm pregnant. So it was like a planned thing on his end, and it was my birthday week, and I didn't realize I was pregnant yet. But I was starting to get like weird emotional wise. And we're out at actually Barcode in Elizabeth, and I remember I take a picture with him and his friend. I just happened to be in the middle of them in that photo, and then I could tell his energy shifted, but he never wanted to go out from the beginning of the night. So at some point I walk up to him and I'm like, let's, are you unhappy? Let's go. Like, we don't have to be here. And he's like, yeah, I want to go. I'm like, all right. Buys me flowers, buys me the flowers with the bear on it. Like, it was so like weird. So we get into my car. I'm driving on the Garden State Parkway. He's super quiet, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, why aren't you speaking? And all of a sudden, hands to the back of my head, my face hit the steering wheel while I'm driving on the Garden State Parkway. And I was shocked and stunned and all of these things, but my initial reaction was fight. Like, you talk fight, flight, oh my God, why? Freeze response. My initial response was fight. And it wasn't to fight him. I remember I just was like, why did you just like, you want to outrage, you're pissed. So, he winds up, we get home, the fight gets worse.
you never call the police on him. You don't get him locked up.
No, so he got
You don't tell
arrested.
anybody.
that I lived in Perth Amboy. Well, when we first started dating, he was hitting me. We were in Perth Amboy. Then eventually I lived in Perth Amboy. They don't call the cops there. I'd be screaming bloody murder on our staircase because he chased me down 3 flights of stairs and hit my head into a steel door, and still nobody would call the cops. Like, I remember saying he's going to murder me. No one called the cops. Like, and his friends witnessed it. People saw it. I would go into work at the barbershop, and right in my hairline I would have like tennis balls into my head. They were never on my direct face. It would always be like in my hairline, under my jawline. My hair would be ripped out, like things like that. So I remember I lost my job because of the domestic violence, and you asked me something.
Did anybody ever call the police
So
again, Russ?
I was in Freehold, and I had an apartment there, and him and I started. Actually, this night, it was the night after the steel door. Literally, I ran down 3 flights of stairs running from him, and somehow I turned the corner of my eye, seeing behind me, he whacked my head into a door that was thicker than that, and it like kind of whatever. So that night, I had marks everywhere. I had his handprints on my arms, scratches. Following night, we're together. I'm screaming at him, but this night it was not violent. Like, it was just one of those like bad nights. He broke a mirror in my house, and the Freehold police showed up, and they arrested him on scene because regardless of whether or not I said he hit me, which I didn't, I had the marks here. I had his full arm, like arms on my, with hands on my arms. And then he wound up saying to them, "Oh, can you tell them my hands aren't bleeding from hitting you? They're bleeding because hit the mirror." So I'm like, "Yeah, he hit the mirror." They're like, "Show me." So I take them to the mirror, and then the camera comes out and a flash goes off. So he like wound up getting like a vandalism charge, and I did drop the charge. And what's crazy is, something that the reason why I advocate so much for domestic violence awareness is because it's a chemical change in the brain. It's not, um, you get shamed. Believe it or not, you're shamed for being hit by a man a lot more than you would think. Like, you think people would be more open to being like, "Oh my God," but if you don't want help the second that they're ready to give you help and it doesn't make sense to them, you're literally like a crazy loser. Like, that's like pretty much the vibe you get. And like, you're weak and you're all these things. Meanwhile, while they're thinking that about me, my hippocampus is shrinking down to nothing. I have no short term memory. Like, I can't remember what started the argument. If it was me, really, like, do I play an equal role in this somehow? Like, so it's very easy to manipulate me. And then on top of it, my amygdala is swollen. So my neuropassage fight or flight response is completely off. And luckily, my response for fight or flight was always fight. I found out later, now that I guess I've been sober for so many years, I do freeze sometimes, which is the scariest thing. I really
What,
like
what,
this.
whatever happened to him?
Oh, well, okay, so
Was he also addicted?
yes.
And
And
did he ever help himself with any of this addiction or
I
violence or?
I don't think he's well still. He
Do you
I
guys
don't
know him? I'm sorry. Do you know him?
I know.
I know him because she is actually came to our treatment center. I intervened her. Her parents called me, and I
So
was
you
the
did the
one to
intervention for her.
get her better.
offer both of us help though. It wasn't even just they did offer
So
help
you
to
met.
him.
So you met him.
And well, he actually stalked her and showed up to our treatment center, and I had to throw him out of the treatment center.
Mm.
So it there was a, like she said, complete, like the dictionary description of narcissist. And we see this a lot with domestic violence kind of cases, is that like when you're the victim in those situations, you really don't know what's up and what's down, and there's a lot of self-blame, and it's its own addiction in itself, where you're trying to either fix the situation, you're trying to fix yourself, you're trying to get back to that original person you met, whatever it is in your mind at that time. It's very hard to kind of break that bond that's going on, that trauma bond that's happening.
Were your parents aware of him hitting you
So
and beating you? And
I remember he was petrified of my dad. Um, my dad called one time, literally. So when I got the abortion, I kind of went into, like I said, this is when I first started using drugs, but it wasn't addiction yet. I wasn't physically dependent, but I wanted to get him away from him right after the abortion because I knew that the baby would have died in vain if I stayed with him. So I started telling on myself really early into it, like, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people will lie and say they're not getting hit or nothing bad's happening. I started telling people because I'm like, I want to know that I'm a loser. Like, and I'm not. And just to be clear, this is not true, but this is what I would tell myself. Like, you're a loser. So start telling people that this guy's hitting you. And like, so I would go home and I told my parents, like, he was beating me. He kicked me in the stomach when I was pregnant. I decided to have an abortion. So on top of that, then he started cheating on me, and then she tried to fight me, and then like, so it just went on and on and on. And then my dad, I remember they kept me at their house. I had my own apartment. They tried to like keep me there. They always would do that, like just stay home, you know. Um, but I remember my dad called him.
Well, they're trying to protect.
Yeah, and he left it, or he all he said was, "You're gonna be in a 6 foot hole," and he just like hung up, and that was enough to scare to never want to cross paths with.
What'd you do?
I can't.
Oh.
Please, yeah, I can't because he's crazy. But yeah,
Dan, you all right?
yeah, I just can't say his name.
It's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He just
he's
called,
he's
he
got some
just
legal
called.
things still going on.
Yeah,
so that
no,
has to be taken out.
we'll have it edited out. But Dan, so can you tell us a little about yourself, how you started?
Yeah, so I I was a little bit different than their two stories in the sense that like when I was growing up as a kid, I was always extremely sensitive, and we call them empaths. Right, I would take on the energy of the room from. I remember 4 years old being worried about world hunger, like the things that a 4-year-old shouldn't be worried about. And I would take on all this pressure, and it would make me. I was extremely shy. I was very introverted, which is not the person that you see today. Which is I don't know how I evolved into this, but I did.
Confidence.
Yeah, I guess so. So growing up in my mom actually got cancer when I was around 7 or 8 years old, and she was pregnant with my little sister, and she didn't tell anybody. And I remember knowing something was wrong in the household, and nobody's telling me. And eventually, it came out what my mom was going through after she had my sister, gave birth to my sister, and I remember getting this feeling like my fucking parents lied to me. Like the people that I trusted the most just lied to me. And me already having this profound distrust for the world and being scared of what it's going to do to me, it just compounded that. Like I can't trust anything in this world. And the anxiety that I was dealing with was insane in my prepubescent years into my teenage years. And eventually, my parents were great parents, though. Like they were always there, all the love and care that I can ask for in the world. They taught me about the dangers of drugs. Told me, I had this vision that like you smoked weed and like you fell down and died. Like there was no fun to it. Like that's what happened. So I was scared to death of them. And I remember one day my parents were out, my brother was watching me, and he's outside in like our little cabana outside, and he's smoking weed with his friends. And me going out there, I was interested in it, and he told me, "Oh, I just stole dad's weed. It was my dad's weed, and you should smoke it with us." And I was scared, but I wanted to be cool to my brother, so I decided to take a hit, and I didn't die. I had a great time. I was laughing, giggling, and all of a sudden, the most profound thing was my anxiety disappeared. I no longer cared about the weight of the world. And I got this like rebel mentality all of a sudden. And I went into school and I told my friends what I did, and they thought I was a badass, which I never was in my entire life. I was never a badass. So I was like, oh, this could be a thing. And I dove like head first into that life. And it made it easier to make friends all of a sudden because all you had to have was a common place of using drugs together. And I then started dealing drugs to my friends. And then I started upping the ante, tried cocaine, mushrooms, LSD, like, you name it. I wanted to try it all because hell, if they lied to me about weed, they lied to me about all of it. Um, and I was able to maintain a whole entire second life like this, but I was a straight A student. I was captain of my swim team. I was the head of my engineering class. Got full ride scholarships in the college for bioengineering. From the outside, my parents had no idea what was going on, and I was able to live these two lives. And it was really dangerous for me because I thought I could do this and it would never affect me, and that I'd be able to manage these two lives. But the reality is, as soon as I went to college, I didn't have the oversight. I didn't have to fake being good anymore. I could just be the bad Dan, if you will. And I ended up breaking. I was a motocross rider, and I ended up breaking my back. I was never into opiates before. I hated downers. I was always into like uppers. But my one friend, he was into OxyContin, and he learned how to doctor shop. And he told me how much money I can make selling them, and I was like,
Can you
"Oh."
explain that to people that don't know what it is? What's
So
doctor?
doctor shopping is when you go to multiple different doctors to get a prescription of the substance that you're looking for. In this case, it was OxyContin. And so we actually had 7 different doctors throughout the state of New Jersey that we were getting OxyContin from, and they were prescribing me 3 to 4 30 milligram Rockettes a day. So we were getting roughly about 150 pills from each of these doctors. So times 7, you're looking at about 1,000 pills a month that I'm getting, and we could sell them for $25 to $38 a pop. Um, so of course, I never listened to Biggie Smalls, and I got high on my own supply. And I hated it at first. I would do like a quarter of them and of 130 milligram and throw up, and then in about 2 months, I was doing about 14 a day.
Wow.
And then it was not economically sound to do that many pills, and when you're trying to sell them. So then I got into heroin because you know,
Snorting, shooting, or both?
snorting. I stayed snorting for a while until it all caught up with me. Ended up getting arrested. Um, I got out of it because I snitched on my doctors to get out of it, and this all happened while I got arrested and got out of jail all within an hour. And my parents were waiting for me at a kitchen table. They had dinner for me coming home from college. And I came home and I totally pretended like nothing happened. Um, about a month later, my uncle was a dispatcher for the Freehold Township Police, and he saw my name come across when I got arrested. He ended up telling my parents what happened and what I was. I got caught with $20,000, 400 pills, and a list of people who owe me money, and it all started coming out, and my parents started seeing the cracks. Because once I got caught, I didn't have the pills to sell anymore. I couldn't go back to the doctors. So now I started stealing things from my house. I was stealing copper out of my family barn and doing crazy stuff to get money to fund my habit.
You know what's crazy? I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah,
You know,
no problem.
people, when they hear about their dealers
Mm-hmm.
or people they're purchasing, they picture you going down to some neighborhood in a back alley and you're buying drugs off of a gangster or a gang guy or, some inner city kid. But really, a lot of this goes on with doctors,
Mm-hmm.
educated, wealthy professionals that really have no need to be doing it because they know they're destroying lives and they should be protecting lives and they're destroying them. And I know there's been a big crackdown on doctors the last, decade.
It's definitely a lot harder to do it nowadays. Since the prescription monitoring system, it's nearly impossible to do.
But it'll tell you about greed and money is what I'm getting at. Now, they're criminals. There's a difference between you selling drugs, them selling drugs, or me selling drugs. I sold it for solely profit. They sold it solely profit. They come from a successful background. I didn't. No excuse for why I'm doing it either. But there's a difference when you're selling it. You're selling it because you need it now.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, you're trying to make a couple bucks at the same time, which really I don't think works out well.
No.
Because once you're using, that money's going to it as you keep getting deeper and deeper.
And me selling drugs was always just part of that fantasy that I was some badass. It was like this identity, this alter ego, or whatever you want to call it, that I was living in, because it seemed to fill the gaps in my own insecurities, and so I dove headfirst into it. And
Well, how many stories you must hear all from different people that have addiction problems? And the reason why I wanted is to tell a little background because the people are listening that do have issues or their family members, which don't know how to handle it. And we all go through it when somebody in their family are using. How you can't control them, how can you help them, why you do it, why you use it, how the family. You have so many different aspects that are going on mentally with everybody that I wanted people to hear each one of your testimonies. But you must hear all these and so many other stories every day, right? When you're working with people. And what I really want to know is how. First, tell them, the people who are listening, how they can find each one of you, and they can reach you and try to get some help. And how do they take that next step if they're scared to get the help, if they think they can't do it? Is really want to know. I mean, you could start with you, Amanda.
Okay, so if you're looking for help, you can find me on Facebook. My first name is Amanda. My last name is Kaziu, Kaziu. I know, it's a weird last name, so I got to spell it out. And you know, for me, I didn't have anywhere to find help. I kind of had to figure it out on my own, and especially when I lost my, private insurance, like thank God I had, resources of people that were able to get me into a bed quickly. But I know it's really hard to make that call, but I promise you that, it's worth it. And we walk people through it. I know where I work at Legacy Healing Center, we have 24-hour life coaching, and we're with them at the beginning of the journey, and we walk them through, on the other side to the end of the journey. So,
So, what's your Instagram so they can find
my
you?
Instagram is at Amanda Kaziu.
And Facebook.
Amanda Kaziu.
So, if somebody want to reach out and you could talk to them if they needed help.
I'm always available to talk.
Okay.
I keep my phone on me 24/7.
Dan, how do they find you?
So you can find me at Daniel Regan Recovery on Facebook, or you could go on healingus.org or .com, and that's our company, and you can get myself or another team member. We're 24/7 ready to answer your phone. To get help and to take that first step for parents, what I'd like to tell you is don't give up on your kid. Well, push. Do not let them tell you otherwise. They could scream, shout, curse, whatever. It doesn't matter. My mom did not give up on me, and she kept pushing me as much as I hated it, and I resisted it to the bitter end, all the way up to getting locked up in a psych ward. I would not be here without her pushing. I know that 100%.
You hear people say give tough love.
Yeah.
Throw them out.
There's a balance. Yes, you have to have a form of tough love, meaning don't be an enabler, right? Don't allow it to happen and pull the wool over the eyes kind of ordeal. But
Phil knows I have a friend that you guys work with and helped. I believe you all know he is Joey. And his mother's an enabler. Loves him. It's just, but parents are afraid to end up like me where you lose your daughter. And you don't know where to stop or start. And any parent that has dealt, or brother or sister that's dealt with a sibling, you do everything. Kick doors in, you chase them, you follow them, you're threatening friends, you're threatening dealers, you're trying everything there is possibly to do to try to reach them to save their lives.
My parents, when I was sent out to California for treatment. When I was sent out, my parents went to Staples and made lawn signs that said drug dealer lives here. You can find heroin here, and put it in every single person in my phone. They had my phone. So they went to every single person's address and put it in their front yard in the middle of the night, so that when the daytime came, all their neighbors saw what what was going on in the house. And actually 2 people were arrested over their efforts, which I was very upset with at the time. But yeah, that's the kind of tough love they gave me. They cut me off from money. They cut me off from putting a roof over my head, from paying my cell phone bills and stuff like that. But they never took their finger off where I was. And when I hit bottom again, they were always there to scoop me back up and give me an opportunity to get well.
Is there a Facebook or Instagram they can reach you also, or is it just through you?
Daniel Regan Recovery on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, the whole 9 yards.
And Kim?
And my Facebook is Kim Ciccone, Ciccone. My LinkedIn is the same. My Instagram is Kimba Ciccone, Kimba Ciccone. But also our 24-hour admissions line's amazing. Everybody that is on our team to pick up that phone is very willing to help. I don't have the number off top hands, but if you go to HU Centers, CENTERS.com, the admissions line's there. And I also just want to mention that anyone that is struggling with mental health crisis, there you could text call the national line 988 anytime 24/7. So even if you're just struggling with suicidal ideation or maybe some other things that you really like are in a crisis about, you could text or call that phone number now as of like I think last year. It's the international.
And if a girl or a guy doesn't want to talk to a girl or a guy, you guys can recommend it to each other, right?
Yeah.
And as far as parents, if they want it kept private, is that something that is not shared with anybody outside of the person?
Yeah.
100% confident.
Okay, so people know that if they reach it, stays private. It's between, you know, it's really yeah, testimonies. Obviously amazing because people, like I said, we all been through something, and the more that you do these things and talk and the work you're all doing, you're saving a lot of people. And just think back when you were in those positions, you never thought you'd get better, right? You thought you were finished. There was no hope. So the people that feel that there is no hope, there is hope out there. You're not alone. Everybody's been through different things. You can make the choice, make the call, make the text, call me, get in touch with me. I can put you in touch with them if you're a little leery of getting in touch with them directly. And hopefully we can help a parent that's desperate out there to help their child, or a sibling, a friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or an individual. Just know you deserve a life. So,
I just want to also note, because we talked about this earlier, people that are uninsured, Medicaid. I was a cash pay. You ran out of insurance. It happens so many times. There are so many amazing resources state to state. I mean, me personally, I know a lot of New Jersey, some Florida, and not too much down there, but mostly here. There are so many great resources that help with whether it's funding for sober living, or they do all scholarship treatment, or they just have like this. For instance, in Monmouth County, there's this program called EISS, and that's really great for people that are in mental health crisis that don't go to the hospital. They don't admit them, but it's funded by the state. So they have different things in every single area. They have safe houses in every area. I believe PetSmart just partnered to have them all listed on their website as well.
So they can reach you if they need some help, and you can help them walk them through it.
I
It's
can
great.
them all. Yeah.
Anybody that I hope you hit the click, follow me. Any questions, write me in. Don't forget effing pizza. Don't forget to vote June, I believe June 10th for governor, Jack Chittarelli. Follow me and write in. Thanks everybody for coming on. I'll see you. Thank you guys.